Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Crystals and Coffee. Thank you for joining me. It's been a while, hasn't it? I haven't put an episode out for a long time. I think we all know why. I mean, the world just went crazy, and we've all had to lock down and live very differently. So, yeah, a lot of things had to take precedent in my life that made it very difficult for me to record. But on the up now, hence I'm back recording. Now, I just want to have a quick mention that the sound may be a little bit funny, and that's because I'm recording this in my car. I am parked on my driveway, sat in my car, well, from what it probably looks like from the outside, just talking to myself because no one can see the equipment from the outside. So that would be people probably think I've gone a bit crazy. But with my son's home from school, my husband not at work, and my next door neighbours having building work done, in recording inside the house is just not an option. So I thought, you know what, I've got to go out to the car. So I'm sorry if it sounds a little bit funny, or if you all of a sudden hear cars going by, then this is the best I can do in the situation, so I hope it's okay. If you want to have a look at my car setup, then I've filmed a quick video that that I've put on my Instagram stories, and you can see how things have been set up. If you can't see it in my stories, it'll be in my highlights for the podcast. Because I just think it's something to remember that I had to record some episodes from my car. So anyway, enough about that. I hope you are all doing okay and have been able to keep safe and well in the last 10-11 weeks since everything, well, essentially stopped. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. There isn't going to be a massive focus on crystals and things today because I just wanted to catch up with you, really, about what's been going on in the world, what's been going on for me, maybe help you reflect on what's been going on with you, because all of our experiences are going to be very different. Thankfully for me, no one particularly close to me, no one I know really well has come down sick with the virus. But I know that I'm lucky, and that a lot of people have been seriously affected and been ill themselves. And that's going to continue, unfortunately, no matter how normal we try to get back to whatever type of normal we try to get back to. This virus isn't going away, and the closer we get to autumn and winter, then it's potential that, you know, some of us are going to get ill and it's not going to go away, and it's a lot to have to try and accept and deal with. I know back in March when the government announced the lockdown, I remember it vividly. It shook me. It really did. I'm not someone who, I embrace change, but I like it to be on my own terms. So when things are changed for me, I don't react very well, and it takes me by surprise, and I can get very anxious. Some might say that I'm a control freak, but I just like to know what's happening. So when they closed the schools and they said you can't go out, um you my husband's business stopped overnight. When they closed the hospitality industry, that was it. His job just didn't exist anymore. So that was a shock in itself. Not least for him, it's a job he's done for 15 years, day in, day out, and then all of a sudden it doesn't exist anymore. It really makes you reevaluate your choices and who you are and what you want to do, and is it something you're going to go back to. And as time's gone on, it's a difficult one because he was self-employed, and you know, it's just a whole tricky situation. So we've had a lot to deal with. My children have obviously just thought this is just some massive summer holiday and thought this was, oh, absolutely great, we don't get to go to school. Although now we're nearly 3 months down the line, they are actually, if they were given the opportunity to go back to school, I think they'd be quite happy too, because they get to see their friends, they get to be in a bit more of a routine. Homeschooling is hit or miss. It's very difficult to try and get children engaged. Normally, obviously, if you were a homeschooler, by choice, then you're not trying to emulate school. You're going out on day trips, you're taking kids out, you might go to museums, nature walks, places they can learn, meet up with other families who are homeschooled. We can't do any of that. We're literally stuck at home, can't take them anywhere educational because everywhere's closed.
Parking
And
mode enabled.
I'm very sorry about that. That was my parking camera. My dash cam has just told me that parking mode is enabled. It's like, well, yeah, I haven't moved off the driveway. Thanks very much. I apologise for that. The perils of having to record in your car. So so homeschooling, it's really difficult when you literally can't do anything else. The school have been as best they can giving out resources and stuff, but the kids know you're not their teacher, so they're kind of thinking, well, I'm gonna see how far I can push this. And some days we've done nothing. Most days we've done nothing schoolwork wise, but they've been able to help mow the lawn, and they've learned to like cook meals, and they've been out on bike rides and walks and fishing, and been able to play golf with my son. My eldest loves golf, so when they reopened outdoor exercise, that was great. So they've had lots of other skills, and and their teachers are very happy with that. I don't think there's a massive expectation that parents are supposed to be keeping up with the curriculum. And then they announced yesterday that children in primary school, in the years that my sons are in, are not expected to go back to school before the summer holidays now. So we now know for sure that they're going to be home for September, and that would have been 6 months off school. It concerns me a little bit, but I also have to remember that all the other children in the country are in the same position.
The block queue is now shutting down.
Okay, she's going to stop talking now. I should have unplugged her. I'm sorry. She's shutting down. It's done. She shouldn't speak again. So yeah, every single kid in the country is in the same position, and they're all going to have to catch up together. So yeah, I'm trying to get them to do little bits here and there, but it's been very stressful. It has, and that's why things took a hiatus for me on Crystals and Coffee. I spent every single day in April. I think I cried every single day in April because it was just such a shock to the system. Even like little things that I used to do, such a first world problem. But even little things I used to do, like popping to the supermarket and stuff, became an ordeal. Having to queue outside the supermarket for 45 minutes to an hour to then walk around in a very strict one-way system. Limits on the amount of food you could buy, etc. Now, I know that this probably can make me sound very spoiled and selfish, because there's many people who are not as fortunate as me, and I know that, but I can only speak of my experience that I had, and that's what I'm trying to share with you as to why I disappeared for 10 weeks, 11 weeks, and what I've been going through. And I know that people have had it much worse than me. Please don't get me wrong, I appreciate that, but I'm just trying to let you know what's been going on with me. And in no small part, thinking about others who have been really sick, people who have been dying, people who have been losing family members, people who don't have enough money to buy food, now that their jobs had gone, they hadn't been furloughed, but they'd lost their jobs. All of that, thinking of the impact of all of that, being an empath myself was really difficult energy wise, and because of the massive shock to my system, I was doing nothing to try and protect myself from that. I was just swimming in this huge bubble of negative energy that was being just everywhere around, coming from everybody. Going out to the shops was absolutely exhausting because everyone was giving off that, back then, everyone was giving off that same energy. We were all scared, we were all anxious, and it was just absorbing me. So that's why my April was a complete washout. I don't even really remember it. It was a bit of a blur, because it was just a blur of emotion. And then in May, I was able to get a bit more of a grip on it. I had a session with my coach, and I was able to get a little bit of perspective and let myself off the hook and try and kind of let things go a little bit. Try and accept how things have changed. Accept that I can't control them. Accept that, I was if you've been listening for a while, you know I've been trying to sell my house. Obviously, I haven't sold my house. It's still on the market. Something in the beginning I was freaking out about, but now I know that I was meant to still be here. If I had moved away from everyone I knew, then put into lockdown, it would have been even more isolating. I had to be here to help my elderly relatives. I ended up doing my nan's shopping every single week. If I had moved, I wouldn't have been here to do that. So I came to accept that I was supposed to still be here, and I am still going to move. It hasn't changed. The end goal hasn't changed. Just the timeline has changed. And I've been doing a lot of reflection. I've been trying to do a lot of grounding because I was all over the shop, and just coming to terms with it all and getting this acceptance that I can't, no matter what I do, I can't control this, and I've just got to take it one step at a time and not think too far ahead, which is something that's very difficult for me. I like to have a plan. I like to know what's going on. So it's been a real eye-opener. And that's why I think that if we can use this time or look back on these last 3 months and maybe reflect on how we're feeling, how we did feel, how we've changed in the last few months. Maybe there are things that we don't want to go back to, things we've learned. Maybe your mindset's changed, maybe your perspective has shifted. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that 2020 has been the most bizarre year that any of us in our lifetimes have experienced, at least. We were on a path as human beings and the earth. We were on a path of destruction. Everything was going wrong. I mean, there's been talk about all the climate change and everything like that for years now. And then in January and February, Australia was literally on fire. And still the majority of people still didn't seem to get it, particularly in the Western world. We've just been so blinkered by, that's happening all the way over there. It's not gonna bother us. And it's the same with other things that are happening in other countries. We can very easily distance ourselves from it. And I think it got to a point where the universe just stepped in and was just like, you know what, unless we bring it to their doors, they are not going to stop. And that's what COVID-19 did. It forced us to stop. We literally had to stop living how we were living and change what we were doing. Now, some people will not use this time to have changed. They will just want things to go back to normal at whatever cost. We've seen it. We've seen all the protests and things that have happened. It's all been on the news about people who wanted everything to open up because they wanted to have their hair cut, and apparently their rights were being infringed because they were being told what to do when they couldn't come and go. People like that are never going to change. No matter what you try and teach them, they are so blinkered in their thinking that it's one of those things where it would just be a waste of time to try and teach them. And that's sad, I know, but it's true. But I think I'm hoping that the majority of us have used this time to reflect. It has changed our perspectives. People are more willing to stand up for other people now that we've seen how vulnerable other people are in society. People as a society we didn't ever think of before. It's like the people that are kept the countries moving are the people that a lot of people don't think twice about, like the retail work, the grocery store workers and delivery people, and let's not forget the healthcare people. I mean, what they have done for us has been absolutely unbelievable, and the haulage drivers and things like that, they've kept us moving. They have literally kept us alive, and I'm hoping now that they get the respect that they have always deserved, maybe as a society have not got. And I think in no small part that this shift in thinking is also what has allowed people to speak up with all of the there's you can't ignore it, the amount, all of the different, the protests and the riots happening at the moment, the race riots and things that are happening against discrimination, police brutality, racism. It's so huge at the moment, and I don't think it's any coincidence that has happened now. These things that have happened to these poor people, like the ones that, there are so many more than the ones that have hit the headlines, but the ones that have hit the headlines, like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, they've brought it to the forefront to so many people who would normally have not said anything, would normally have kept quiet, would not have stood up to authority, would not have stood up to their family and friends about how they thought. They would not have done it before. But I think that the way that we have been shaped, the way our perspective has changed, our mindset has changed, we've become more, I can't think of the word right now, which is really annoying me, but we're more willing to speak up and think, do you know what? No, this world is fucked enough as it is. We're not going to stand for it anymore. We can't. This is something has to be done. And that's what's happened. And I'm glad it happened, because again, somebody who works with energy, who is extremely aware of energy that's happening all around, it needed to happen, because we were becoming so blinkered and so absorbed with ourselves as an entire race, an entire society was completely just on the verge of breaking down, I think, in the years to come, if something like this hadn't happened, if 2020 had not happened and made us all stop, made us appreciate what's important, changed our perspective, made us stop living the way we were living and see the world differently, these things would not have happened. And 2020 there's a lot of memes, there's a lot of jokes going around on the internet about how 2020, worst year ever, can't wait for 2021, 2020 is just like, we've got to move on. And yes, 2020 will go down in history as a year where a lot happened. There was a lot of death, there was a lot of action, a lot of change, and I think that's going to be really important for us to remember, and to view 2020 not as a year where all bad stuff happened, but 2020 was the year we changed. And going forward in years to come, have 2020 was the turning point, was the pivoting point of where we changed our behaviour, we changed our outlook, we came together as a society that we weren't going to stand for any shit anymore. We want to live differently. We want to live kinder. We want to live equal. There needs to be, and not only in terms of race, but like I said before, about society and class and the hierarchy of people who might earn a lot of money, or own a lot of businesses, thinking they're really, really important. But where have they been throughout these last 12 weeks? They've been, for want of a better word, completely useless for society, because they're not ones that are keeping us moving. They're not the ones that we literally owe everything to. And yes, when this lifts, they are going to go back and they are going to have their businesses and they're going to contribute a lot to the economy. But I hope that they also see that there are so many different cogs that keep this country turning, and there's so many more important things. And I think it would be an absolute travesty if in the months to come, or going into the new year, and things do start to resemble life before the pandemic and everything else, that it would be awful if nothing changed and everyone forgot. That's my worst fear for the end of 2020. Not catching the virus, not my kids going back to school. It's that we forget and we move on and think, well, we made it, we can just carry on as we were, because we can't. And I think that would be an absolute travesty and a disgrace for all the people that we have lost this year for whatever, not just through the pandemic, but there are people who are being killed unjustly. There are people who are being attacked now for protesting their beliefs unjustly, and still being killed, and people are not being held accountable. And that can't go on. And I really want 2020 to stand for change. That is something that I now want to use my voice for. Now, I haven't got a huge, massive audience, but but those of you who do listen to me, and thousands of you do, if I can just reach some people to have that same, and I hope you do already have that mindset because you are listening to me, and I hope we're on that safe wavelength, that we can't let people forget and we can't let things go back to how they were, because doesn't that just make everything we've been through a complete waste? And I really want us to, we know the importance of energy, we know the importance of affirmation, manifestation, listening to the universe, and these are lessons that we're being told to learn. And I don't want to ignore them. I want to carry on talking about these things. And people are, I'm seeing it myself, people who would never have spoken up before on anything, whether it be politics or childcare, schooling, race, police brutality. You would never have said anything before, or all of a sudden having conversations that they would never have brought up before in fear of being shouted down. They would never have been brought up before in fear of being judged. But now it's almost as if we've been given an attitude of, do you know what, fuck it, I'm going to tell you how I feel because life's too short now. We need to fight, we need to change. And that is what I believe, what I really want 2020 to be remembered for, is the year of change. Now, I wrote a very brief blog last week about my experiences of how I felt and how I also wanted this, and this is what this podcast is a follow-up to. So if you want to also read that, you can go to katiebatt.com, and the title is A Whole New World. So if you want to have a look at that blog, go ahead and do that. It just sums up basically my experience in the last 10 to 12 weeks, and how, and just reiterating the thought that 2020 has to be a year of change. And that's basically what I've been sitting on and what I've been thinking about, and I've been reflecting on and contemplating while I've not been talking to you guys. And a lot of you have still listened. I've seen that you've all been listening to previous episodes, and people have continued to take my courses online, and for that I'm so appreciative that you're still finding me and you're still wanting to hear me. So I'm hoping now that I'm back that you're going to continue to want to listen to me as well. I am going to go back to talking about crystals and the universe and holistic healing, and how we can, using energy and our intuition, because that is what I'm passionate about. And I think it's become even more important now for us to be able to tune into that and really focus on what we feel is important. So, in the coming weeks, then I'm going to bring it back more on target of what Crystals and Coffee is all about, but not ignoring what's going on in the world at the same time. It all needs to interlock if things are going to change. So basically that's what this week has been about. That might have turned into a little bit of a rant, bit of a preach, but I had to get it out. I had to let you know that I've not just been sat here wallowing. Well, I did for the first couple of weeks, but I haven't just been sat here wallowing and ignoring everything that's going on and just focusing on me. I've just had a lot. It's just been a lot to take in, and I'm now ready to speak out with you guys, and it just some of the points I can bring up to start conversations that maybe not had before, or conversations that you've wanted to have that have been difficult, or you just want to share some reflections, or if you want to talk to other people that listen to the podcast. I don't know where you're listening to this. If you're listening to it through my YouTube channel, or you're listening to it on SoundCloud, then I know you can comment on the podcast, so you can start a conversation there. You can find me on my socials. I will post about this on my Instagram and on my Facebook. You can find me through my website. You can email me. Let's just start a conversation. Let's, as a community and how we're feeling, let's talk to each other. Let's connect. So there are many avenues that you can do that through. And as I said, if you do want to have a little giggle at my car setup, then have a look at my Instagram stories. And next time I record it, I will switch off my dash cam so we're not interrupted by her 3 times in a row. Sorry about that. Didn't think. First time recording in my car and all that. But I think overall it went all right. I don't think there was too much background noise. But yeah, thank you for listening. And if you've got this far, thank you for listening to me rant and express myself. And I hope that it can inspire you to want to do the same and start to have some conversations and do some self-reflection and perspective as to how you can put your experiences to good use in the future, and how that might change some of the things that you want to do. So yeah, thank you very much. I will be back again next week. We're back on the weekly. Every Friday, new episode of Crystals and Coffee. If you want to listen, obviously there's tons of previous episodes for you to listen to if you've not listened to many before, and if you're an avid listener and you'd like to absorb more of my content, then I've got a link to my Patreon in the link below, so you can become a Crystals and Coffee member and have access to exclusive podcast episodes, Q&As, monthly video blogs and things like that. So you can check that out. There's various different tiers starting at just £1/$1 a month. So yeah, have a look at that. Your support is always appreciated. Thank you for listening, and take care of yourselves and stay safe, and I'll speak to you next week. Bye.